Are you saying, guys, you guys need to hear this. If you guys have not tuned into any of the podcasts, first of all, why? Second of all, listen to this. Caleb, do you think that Michael Jordan, I don't even know how to phrase this question. Do you think that Michael Jordan is the greatest athlete of all time? Come on, somebody. I'm Caldwell. He's Caleb, and we are back for episode 2. Episode 1's gotten some good feedback. As of right now, as we're recording, we don't record on Friday, but Caleb, we got over 30 views on YouTube, over 20 plays on the podcast, close to 200 views on social media. We got a lot of feedback so far. We're off to a great start.
Yeah, it was fun. I enjoyed it so much, and it's always cool to just get a little bit of feedback and know that other people are enjoying it too. So it's great.
It's been really good. We're excited for another episode. Want to give you guys a preview of it, as we will always do every single time, and it's really looking good. For Sports and Scripture, we're going to be talking about a biblical worldview of money and greed. It's kind of talking like how that plays out in sports. Because it plays out a lot, and we'll talk about that. That was live, which is my personal segment. I am so pumped for. I'm talking about the greatest poster dunk I've ever seen live. It's going to be good. I'm looking forward to it. Double Dippin. Who knows? I don't know what you got for me. You don't know what I got for you. We might come at each other. It could be anything goes at that point.
AJ and I are always like, we're always going back and forth during the week about double dipping. We don't tell each other what we're going to do, but we're kind of just giving little hints or like, buckle up this week or something like that. So yeah, I'm excited for AJ's this week. It'll be cool. But after double dipping, we'll go to my segment, Beyond the Numbers. I'm going to talk a little bit about a certain quarterback stat, which I have some opinions on. So, yeah, we'll get to that. And then we'll close up with High Five, another favorite, and we'll be talking about or giving our list of the top 5 MLB players of all time.
Of all time.
Yeah, so that's what this episode's looking like. We're excited.
We're pumped. It's another edition of it. It's time to talk all things sports from a Christ-centered, Bible-saturated foundation. Let's roll. Welcome to Sports in Scripture. In this edition of episode 2, we're looking forward to looking to God's Word to tackle the various aspects of sports. And today we're talking about a biblical worldview of money and greed. So as always, we have our Bibles out. We would encourage you guys to have your Bibles out as well, whether you're listening in the car or whatever the case is. If you just want to listen along, if you have the opportunity to have your Bible out, we would encourage you guys to do that. So we're talking about a biblical worldview of money and greed. I'll give my thoughts first. Caleb, I was immediately drawn to 1 Timothy again. And going through it for a month, the Lord drew me to do chapter 6, which talks a lot about money and greed. And so I'm going to read 1 Timothy chapter 6, verses 6 through 10, and then I'll jump to verses 17 through 19 probably later on. But this is what we always like to do, y'all. We read the passage. We want to read the very words of the living God, and then give our thoughts on them, hopefully in a God-glorifying way. So again, biblical worldview of money and greed. And this is what God's Word has to say from 1 Timothy chapter 6. Beginning in verse 6, it says, "But godliness with contentment is great gain. For we brought nothing into the world, and we cannot take anything out of the world. But if we have food and clothing, with these we will be content. But those who desire to be rich fall into temptation, into a snare, into many senseless and harmful desires that plunge people into ruin and destruction. For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evils. It is through this craving that some have wandered away from the faith and pierced themselves with many pangs." When we look at this passage, when we look at 1 Timothy chapter 6, the very first thing that we see is this idea of contentment. This goal of contentment that really should be our goal as Christians, but honestly should be the goal of any person in life. Obviously, the contentment that we want, the contentment we desire, can't come unless we see it in its perfect form, which obviously comes through knowing Christ. And that's why verse 6 says, but godliness with contentment is great gain. So I want to start there. That's the basis where we find, when we tackle this issue, rather, is that contentment is the key. What are we wanting from this life? What are we wanting from the success we want? What are we wanting from the popularity that we get? What are we wanting from the things that please us in this life, the things that make us happy? The main goal for money, if there is a main goal for money on the other end, it's actually evil. A main desire for money is evil. There are so many things that need to happen beforehand before we talk about money in order for it to be a God-given desire, in order for it to be a God-given gift that we see. Because money, just like we talked about with just the idea of sports last week, money is also just a gift. It's a gift from the Lord that he bestows upon us. And so, I mean, verse 7, for we brought nothing into this world, we cannot take anything out of the world. We're not going to take any of this with us. So why would we invest ourselves into something that inherently is evil? I mean, look at the end of the verses. We'll move through this rather quickly, but verse 9 says, but those who desire to be rich fall into temptation. And this is where we really want to apply it to sports, that those who hold out, you'll hear us probably use that term. I don't know if Caleb will use that term in his part, but people who are holding out in sports for contracts. Many times, if not all times, it's because they want more money than is being given to them, that's being offered to them by their organization. This idea that they're worth more money than what is being offered. Now, sometimes they are. And Caleb and I probably have our own personal stories of people who deserve much more money than they're given, or people who are given way more money than they deserve. That's besides the point. The point is, when we think about contracts or sports contracts or the money that comes along with professional athletics specifically, it's many times an evil, tempting desire, as 1 Timothy 6 says. They fall into a snare, into many senseless and harmful desires. I mean, think about the idea of holding out. I'll use that term again. Holding out, people who hold out and are just waiting around to get paid the right amount of money, they're not allowed to practice. They're not allowed to go to camp. They're not allowed to play the sport that they love. It's rather a foolish thing, in my opinion. You're making money regardless, so why would you take less money? Or why would you want more money, rather than taking less money and being able to play the sport you love? That, guess what? In playing the sport that you love, and in being able to succeed in the way that you will because you're a star on that team, they'll probably pay you later. I mean, just think about that. Think about that fact. So when we think about this, I think, Caleb, there's a lot of things that go with it, but I think contentment is where it starts. And then the way we look at money, that it needs to be attached to a biblical concept or a godly concept in order for it to be something that we see as a gift rather than a temptation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you nailed it. 1 Timothy, both in those verses and in the later verses, which you might talk about a little bit more, they nail it. So that was great to bring that up. I think, too, just thinking, like, greed is so, as AJ was saying, it's so common and it's so prevalent in sports. You know, that we see it all the time, holdouts, and especially in football, it seems like there's been a lot of those where, you know, demanding more money and just kind of already astronomical amounts. It makes me think of Ecclesiastes says, he who loves money will never be satisfied with money, I think. And so, yeah, that's huge. But at the same time, with an unbelieving world, I think that's kind of what we expect, and it makes sense from their point of view. Because for the unbeliever, that's kind of your only hope in life is to have the best life you can. If you're denying Christ, then that's all you have is this life. And so you think of just how silly and foolish that is ultimately in terms of thinking about eternity. And Matthew 16, what does it profit a man if he gains the whole world and forfeits his soul? I was reading even that parable in Luke where the man's storing, it's the same thing. He's storing up storehouses and earthly treasures for himself, and God says to him, "You fool, this very night your soul is required of you." And what will happen to all these things you've acquired? So really, that's all what we can expect, I think, from the unbelieving world, because that's the only hope they have. I mean, they are offered salvation. The Lord offers salvation to all. And that's just, I think, where I think of the riches we have and the perspective we have as believers. Even Ephesians, I think of that in Ephesians 1, that he has blessed us, the Lord has blessed us with every spiritual blessing in the heavenly places in Christ. He chose us in love. He predestined us to adoption. And we have redemption, forgiveness of trespasses, according to the riches of his grace, which he lavished on us. That's, as believers, that's all we need to, like AJ said, be content. So what Paul said in Philippians, that he's content with in want or having little or having more, that he has learned to be content in all circumstances. So yeah, I think that's really big, and it's really the message that we should have as believers to the unbelieving world, that this is what they chase after, but in the end, what will it profit a man when he's standing before the Lord and he has all this earthly accumulation of wealth, but he also has all this sin and all this blasphemy? That's a dilemma that everyone will have at some point, but the Lord offers forgiveness for sin. That's the important thing. So I got a little off topic there, but AJ, I think you nailed it. And no,
it's a good point. Just even thinking about the last few verses, I won't read all of them, from 1 Timothy 6. I mean, it's the end of Paul's letter to Timothy, first letter to Timothy, rather. And he just talks about in verses 17 through 19 about what the rich in this present age should desire. And the one thing I'll highlight is to not be high, not set their hopes on the uncertainty of riches. The riches are uncertain. And I think a lot of people in sports and a lot of people who are fans of sports teams think that the riches that people have in sports are like lock solid, like lock and key, like they're well off. Who knows? I mean, we think about so many tragedies that happened. Kobe Bryant, for one. Now, he was not playing anymore, but he was still getting paid different things. And in an instant, none of his money mattered. And so I think in the second half of verse 17, but on God, who richly provides us with everything to enjoy. God is the one, and brother, you nailed it. I love what you said. God is the one who has blessed us with everything in the heavenly places. And I'll use this example. And it's funny. It's from a team that's actually within the division of the Chiefs, so they're rivals of us. But I don't know if you remember this, brother, but Derek Carr, actually, who was the quarterback for the Oakland Raiders, he had a new contract extension a couple years ago, and he was interviewed about it. I mean, he was getting paid like big money, and that's something we could even have a conversation about, whether he deserved the money or not. But that's besides the point. But he was being interviewed about, like, man, you've made like all this money, more money you've ever made in your life, and he's like, yeah, I actually am setting some of it aside to give to my church. As a professional athlete who is prioritizing what the goal of money is, and that's to be given back to God, to be used to glorify God. And how many athletes do we see that don't use that? And so I love what you said, that unbelievers are going to act like unbelievers. We should expect nothing less from them. But Christ commanded we cannot serve both God and money. And I think you made some really good points about that as well.
Yeah, it's good. We also, it's too, I mean, we don't believe money is wrong to have money, of course. Like AJ said earlier, it's one of the gifts God has given us, and we should be stewards of it. But it definitely, it is like First Timothy says, those who want to get rich fall into temptation, and that also money is the root of evil, of all sorts of evil. So it is a big temptation there. One last verse before we go, Hebrews 13, in verse 5, it says, "Make sure that your character is free from the love of money, being content with what you have, for he himself has said, I will never desert you, nor will I ever forsake you." so that we can confidently say, the Lord is my helper. I will not be afraid. What will man do to me? So it's just a good reminder too, and it kind of repeats some things we've said, but it's just encouragement from Hebrews 13 that we are always rich in the Lord, because that's all we need. And it says a couple verses down that Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever, and always with us. Like we don't need anything more than that.
Amen.
So, yeah, that's great. That's encouraging. But that's it for Sports and Scripture. Let's move on to AJ's segment. That was live.
All right, welcome back to That Was Live, as I tell the joys and sorrows, many a story of the joys and sorrows of me as a sports fan, reckoning things as live as they happened. Caleb has already pulled up some food and some things.
Got my applesauce. I'm ready for this story. Make it good, AJ.
He's already pulled up a chair. Guys, pull up a chair and listen to this, because this was one of the greatest things I've ever seen, just like with a lot of sports. But this is the greatest poster dunk I've ever seen in my entire life in a live game, obviously. We see so many replays and Sports Center highlights, and that's all well and good. But when you see something live that happens for the first time, and it's your team, shut it down. Like, it is game over.
I'm trying to think what this will be.
What?
I'm trying to think what this will be.
Oh, dude, you don't even know what's coming. I'm going to take you back to, I believe it was 2017 or 2016. I can't remember. So one of my last years in California before we moved to Iowa, for my dad to be an associate pastor. He'd already graduated. I was getting close to graduating high school, and I believe it was 2017. It was the Big 12 championship. So Iowa State, and you guys will hear me talk about Iowa State a lot. They're my team. They're my college team. Caleb does not indulge in college sports, but we're trying to make him repent of that and get him to come on board with it. The shrug. We're trying to get him to come on board. But the Big 12 championship for basketball. So Iowa State's a very average team. When it comes to the Big 12 championship, a switch is flipped. In the past 5 or 6 years, Iowa State has won 3 or 4 Big 12 championships. Keep in mind, this is the same conference with Kansas, West Virginia, Texas, Texas Tech, just some dudes, some ballers from all these different teams in the same conference. Iowa State don't care about that. Iowa State don't care about no Kansas. Well, Kansas was already gone at this point, so thankfully that was no problem. We were playing West Virginia in the Big 12 championship game, and it was close to the end of the game, y'all. And if you're wondering why I'm lowering my tone, it's to save all the headphone users in just about 15 to 20 seconds.
Oh no.
we were getting close to winning the game, and West Virginia had to pull back their press or try to get a steal, and didn't work. And so we had a fast break. And Deontay Burton, who is an Iowa State alum, he is now in the G League, kind of gone to NBA back and forth. He is a human highlight film. Let me say that again. A human highlight film. And he came from the right side, and I'm trying to describe this as best as I can as if I'm watching it again live. He came from the right side, and our point guard threw a lob to him. Here was the one problem. There was one West Virginia defender left on the defensive end who was staying right next to the hoop as well. He had no idea that Deontay was coming. No clue until it was too late, because this man, and I cannot even begin to tell you guys how much this man ended this West Virginia player's life. Because he rose up, got the lob, came from the right side, cocked it back like this, and just boom, just destroyed the rim. I'm surprised the backboard in chat. He yammed on this man. This man has a family. This man has siblings. This man has a college education. And Deontay Burton said, "No, sir. I don't care about your college education. I don't care that you go to West Virginia. I don't care that it's a Big 12 championship game. I am dunking on your head." And it was the #1 play on SportsCenter that day. And here was the best part about all of this, and why this segment is named what it is. It was live when I saw it. And I was in my house. And Caleb, I did laps around my house. Because it was unbelievable. And maybe we might have to just, like, leave links of the highlights of these. So you guys can actually, like, understand how amazing this was. Because the commentators immediately after literally said, you can't guard that. You cannot guard that. He destroyed this man's life. He came back, Caleb. He came back. This West Virginia player. I can't even talk right now. This West Virginia player came back next season because he wasn't a senior. And I'm gonna be honest. I saw him for the first time when they played Iowa State. Iowa State wasn't as good the next year when they played Iowa State, and I was like, "This dude still plays basketball after that?" Like, it was that bad. Like, it was that bad. This dude was like a JV dude. And it was awesome when Deontay Burton finally caught it, and this dude realized my life is over. When he realized I jumped and I don't have anything else left to do except to be on SportsCenter. To quote Reggie Miller, "Welcome to your Kodak moment." That was live. Deontay Burton, Big 12 championship game. We still should need to leave the links for these because, woo! I would say
I'm on YouTube right now, and I just watched the highlight. And that's crazy. Oh my God. Wait, you think we can get some audio for this?
Oh, dude.
Can you hear this?
It was unbelievable. We're gonna leave a link. You know what you do, Caleb? Here's an idea, and this might be some down the road for our YouTube channel. We need to do like live reactions of like screen sharing on Zoom of us reacting to like some of these highlights we bring up. It was filthy, y'all. Like, it was.
That's crazy.
Oh, it was. I couldn't, dude. I couldn't sit still. I couldn't. That was live. So there you go. There's your second edition. It's living up to the hype. Live sports. There's something about it, and they're coming back soon. So, but enough about my own segment. It's not just my own show. This is our show. This is our sports talk, and the sports talk is about to get real and heated. Caleb, the AC is still broken in the place you're at. Talk to us. How are we feeling?
We're doing all right. You know, it's better than last. I had a heavier jersey on. You know, last week. I'm doing okay, but I think it's gonna get real hot in a second. Because I think I'm a little scared to hear what you're about to say for your hot take.
Well, hey, I've been talking a lot already. Deontay Burton got me fired up. I might need to cool off a little bit. I get a drink of water over here. Hit me with your hot take.
Unfortunately,
we hit back-to-back doubles, right? Back in the day. Now we're going to do back-to-back hot takes. Mm-hmm. We're going to try to get as hype as we did back then. Y'all already know what it is. It's go time. We're going into hot takes. Come on, Caleb.
Oh man,
I'm getting a drink of water.
Yeah. Okay. Should I still go here?
Keep going.
Okay. So we got I was going back and forth. We have some fiery hot takes coming up.
I'm nervous to take a drink of water because I'm worried I'm going to take a sip and you're going to say something and then all of a sudden there's going to be like water all over my camera.
Don't worry. This hot take is this might cool you down a little bit, actually.
Oh no.
Because this is a subject that a lot has been going on about this as a baseball fan. And so recently what just happened is there's negotiations going back and forth with the owners and the players trying to get a season together, right? Because they're trying to start up a season. And so it recently kind of came to a head where the players are saying, okay, no more back and forth. They just said, tell us when to play and when, or where to play and when. So my hot take is, with all the negotiations going back and forth, and if you're in the baseball world, you know what's going on. If you're not in the baseball world, this hot take's a bit of a downer for you. But so AJ will come with some heat to follow it up. But I'm siding with the owners on this one. That's my hot take. Is that I think the players are more to blame for the lack of a baseball season than the owners. And I know a lot of people don't agree with me because the owners are the rich ones, right? They're the billionaires, the ones with all the money. But I won't get weighed into it because there's a lot of details that would kind of suck all the air out of our hot take energy. But basically, it's if you look at what's going on, just a quick explanation, the players have agreed to prorated salaries, which means you play. You get paid your salary based on how many games you play. That's what they agreed to. So if you play, 81 games, then you get paid half your salary because that's half of the full season. So basically, the deal was that with all the concessions that MLB and the owners are losing with no fans, they would be losing about $640,000 per game at full rated salary. So basically, they're going back and forth and saying, we can play 72 games at 80% salaries. Then the players kept saying, no, we want all our money. Again, goes back to greed. And so I got to side with the owners on this one. It's the amount they're losing. I don't think the players are really losing money if you look at when asking for 100% salary, because that's what they're playing based on their own. But that's what they're earning based on how much they play. So that's my hot take, is that I think the owners are right. And I know a lot of people are mad at the owners and happy with the players, but I got to side with the owners. I think the players should be willing to take a little bit of a hit and take the 70 games at 85% salary rather than trying to force a full salary and cause just millions and millions of loss for MLB. But that's my hot take this week.
So here's the bigger question then. Like, what do you think about the MLB season? Like, will it happen? What will it look like?
Yeah. I think it's going to happen. So yeah, good call, AJ, because we can kind of have hot take part 2. I am very confident that there will be an MLB season. I know that there's been some doubt with Rob.
More confident than me, I can tell you that much.
Well, Manfred originally. So here's hot take part 2. There will be an MLB season, definitely. And so, well, what do I know? But I think there will be. Manfred, MLB commissioner, he said that a while ago, he said 100% there's going to be an MLB season this year. And he can force a season. He has full power to force a season, and it'd be around 50 games if he did. That's kind of what they say. Although he recently said that he's not 100% confident there will be a season. And honestly, I think it's just kind of, I know a lot of players are upset about that. And I know Trevor Bauer went on his whole Twitter thing of, you may have seen that, AJ, of what's going on, and it's
almost as bad as him throwing a ball over the center field fence.
Trevor Bauer's character. But I really think he's kind of almost taking a shot back at the players for just dropping their negotiations and not being willing to take any sort of pay cut outside of their prorated salary. And I think he's kind of trying to almost put a scare back into him. But I don't think really he would risk or take the risk to MLB's fan base of having a whole season gone. Just think about the young stars in the game, guys like Mike Trout, all the young guys, Fernando Tatis Jr., these guys, just all the excitement, Shohei Ohtani going to be back, all this stuff. I don't think he'd risk, no games, no playoffs, even though he would be losing money on it. I think long term he'd lose more by not having a season.
Yeah.
But we'll see. So that's kind of my twofold. I'm with the owners, but then I also confident we're going to have a season. I'm hoping.
Okay. Yeah.
I cannot wait. I have to wait until April again? Oh, my goodness. But
yeah, for the sake of all sports fans, if we don't have an MLB season, like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, we might have to have a moment of silence on the podcast if that ends up happening.
Oh, my goodness.
I'll tell you what. But, okay, so here is mine, and I'm just going to jump right into it. Caleb's bracing himself over there.
Should I be scared for this one?
The NBA playoffs, I'm not even going to give any precursors. The NBA playoffs will not live up to the playoff hype. They're just not going to whatsoever. And I think a lot of people will side with me on this, but maybe they won't. But the NBA playoffs are going to be a joke. And I'm dead serious. Like, they're going to be a joke. Like, there's going to be games, there's going to be competition. But let me just lay out the actual, logistical things of what we're looking at. It's in one location. So there's no travel. There's no chance of you not being there on your best day and traveling over a plane. You're either you're there at the Walt Disney World Resort or something like that, and you're in Orlando. Like, there's one location, so everyone's in the same spot. So that's boring in and of itself because you don't hear all the stories of, like, showing up and business as usual and things like that, whatever. No fans, which we need to talk about at some point. Like, that's not okay. Like, the playoffs are not going to be the playoffs if there's no fans. Like, can we be realistic about that? Like,
they should sell 20 tickets. You enter your name and you get, that'd be insane.
That would be pretty cool because there needs to be somebody there, and the fact that there's not going to be anybody there, I have nothing else to say on that. Like we need to talk about this at some point in the podcast because fans make sports. Like, why do you think there is so much feedback from LeBron James or Stephen Curry or Giannis or people like this? It's because of fans' reactions. Like, it's because of fans' reactions. Here's even another twofold hot take on my part. Those guys wouldn't even be superstars without fans. Like, just be honest. Like, those guys wouldn't be who they are without fans, like, being exposed to them.
Sports wouldn't be what it is without fans.
Exactly, 100%. Here's the final thing. And here's something that just boggles my mind, but I guess where you have no other choice, I guess. 22 teams? 22 teams. So we're going to have, what is it? What do they say? 7 or 8 regular season games, and we're going to playoffs with 22 teams?
Yeah, I don't even know how it's going to work.
Here's what I say to that. Just let them all play. Like, there's only 8 other teams that are sitting down. Like, if we're going to do 22, just let them all play. Like, give the Warriors a shot to, like, win it all or something. I don't know. Like, if we're going to do 22 teams, and we're going to have teams in the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference that are 5 games below 500, and we're going to let them play, we're going to let them in, like, here's what should have happened. Here's what should have happened. And this, no ifs, ands, or buts. Like, you can cry, people can cry me a river. Whoever was the 8 in the Eastern Western Conference, they play. This is the situation we're in. This isn't like, oh, well, they didn't have another chance to play. That's baloney. Like,
yeah, and you know what it is?
You had so many games already. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and it's all the money. I want to get Zion and the Pelicans in the playoffs. It's all that.
Yep. And here's the final thought I will have on this. The difficult circumstances, COVID, everything going on in our world, which we're not even going to address, Kyrie Irving, Dwight Howard, just grow up. That's all I'll say on that. Difficult circumstances are going to create difficult and very disappointing results. Like, unbelievably disappointing. Like, we love that sports are going to be back. But, Caleb, that's it for me. Like, I love that sports are going to be back, and I have no other expectations other than that. I'm just going to be excited to watch highlights of a sports game because it is going to be – I saw something on Instagram a while back when COVID started of the NCAA championship of Villanova hitting the buzzer beater, and someone did like a edit of it as if there were no fans. It was the most depressing thing. Yeah, it was the most depressing thing. It's sneakers like squeaking around, him shooting the shot and the buzzer going off, and nothing going on.
There's like 3 people like, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, this is what we're going to be watching, guys. Like, just be ready for that. Like, if y'all think it's going to be like, oh, it's all this intensity and stuff, it will be, but it won't be intense at the same time because you'll be able to hear everything because there'll be nobody else in the arena.
You know what, though? Okay, this is funny. I guess they won't play, like, the music that they do. You think of NBA and they have the, just the stuff going on. I guess it'll just be dead quiet. Like, I don't know. That'll be weird. But it'll be cool. You know what? The bright side of all this is we're living through a very, very historic moment just in the world, but sports-wise too. So, like, hey, like, it's weird and I kind of don't like it, but at the same time, 1, at least we have NBA. Baseball.
Yeah, that's true.
2, it'll just be interesting to experience something new. You know, we've never seen, will you be able to hear all the communication on the floor? I don't know, like, it'll be different, but hey, what do you think is the NBA champion is it gonna come with an asterisk then?
With an asterisk, yeah, as people are saying. I don't think so. because I think the NBA champion will be someone who is like actually good this year. And that's why I'm going back to saying, like, why have 22 teams when you have 16 teams that to this point, like, they've played over 40 games.
Yeah.
They played over half the season. Like, if this was like they played 20 games, I understand. They let everybody play at that point. You played past the All-Star break.
They should just do the playoffs. Like, continue.
Exactly. Just do the playoffs. Like, there's no point. It just makes no sense to add 6 teams to one location.
It's all the ad.
It's all the everything. Here's the other thing too. Like, it's gonna prolong this experiment. It's just gonna be awkward. Like, it's gonna be like we're gonna be watching game after game after game of no fans, no sound, just highlights. It's gonna be weird, but we need
like
to.
In 2-3 years, when all this is like over, man, can't wait. Fans.
Exactly. When we have fans back, when we have everything, we're gonna look back on this time. We're gonna be like, this was worth it. But right now, doesn't make any sense. Anyways, that was double dipping. We got a little fired up there a little bit, but it's time to transition in to Caleb's segment. This is Beyond the Numbers.
All right, guys, welcome to Beyond the Numbers, where I tell you which stats you use too much, which stats you don't use enough, and we just talk about sports statistics. So today we're going to delve into the world of football, specifically NFL, football, and talk about a specific statistic that is used very often, and that is QBR. So we're going to talk about, it stands for quarterback rating, which is one thing not to be confused with passer rating. So passer rating and quarterback rating are it's confusing, I know, but two different things. So we're going to talk about quarterback rating, which is specifically an ESPN created stat. They created it in 2011. They've been using it since. So basically what QBR does is it's supposed to give, take a quarterback and give how much value he adds to a team and put it on a scale of 1 to 100, basically. So if a quarterback had a QBR for a game of 5, like, he was absolutely atrocious. And if he had a quarterback rating of 95, that is amazing. And so really those high numbers, I think the highest players have ever gotten is kind of in the 97, 98 range, but I'm not exactly sure. And they've had low games too, around 10. I'm trying to think what the lowest QBR I've seen is, probably below 10. But anyways, so it's a scale of 1 to 100. And so basically how it works, it's a very confusing statistic, and I'll just try and summarize how it works, and then we'll talk about it a little bit, how we should think about it. So basically it's a efficiency stat, so it's not cumulative. It doesn't build up over time, which same thing with passer rating. If you throw one pass for an 80-yard touchdown, you're going to have a great passer rating, a perfect passer rating. You're going to also have a great QBR. It's not like you have to build it up. So basically it goes play by play, and the scenario for every play is basically analyzed based of, okay, how much time's left in the half? Where are they on the field? What quarter is it? Is it fourth? Is it crunch time at the end, or is it 5 minutes in the first quarter? And it's analyzed to estimate what the future. I'm going to read this from ESPN. Estimate the future net score advantage the team currently on offense can expect. And so it kind of gives a prediction based on where they are, how much score can they expect from this point. And then from that play to the next play, whatever their then score expectancy is when they start the next play, the difference of that is used each time. It's called an EPA, so expected points added. So if you throw a 50-yard pass, when you're at the 45-yard line going this way, and then you're at the 5-yard line, then your points expectancy is way higher. So that was a great point. You're going to have a really high points added. And then what it does is it analyzes, okay, what of those points added goes to which players. So what was it to the quarterback? What goes to the receivers? It kind of puts it out like this. So it's kind of cool. It's a great idea. And so it's very supposed to be a very comprehensive stat. I have a lot of problems with QBR. And this is where we'll kind of get into maybe even just some broader statistical concepts in general. But my problems with QBR, first of all, is it's just a football thing. Football is a very difficult sport to analyze stats-wise. And it's because of this. You're one player, anything that happens is affected so much by other players. And I know, again, QBR, we'll get into it a little bit. QBR tries to talk about how much players affected certain things. But football is very difficult, a very difficult sport.
He's trying to get his thoughts together to avoid like ranting.
I'm trying not to full-on rant, but trying to also explain this very complicated statistic. So football is a very difficult sport I personally think football eye test is very important. And this is just the general concept with sports. You have statistics, which are solid facts, right? Batting average. A guy gets a hit this amount, that's not, there's a little debate. Was that an error? Was that a hit? But generally, something like that. Or Ks per 9 inning if we're going baseball. Something like that. That's a fact that's mathematically, statistically, it's a fact. So the two things generally we go off of sports is one, facts, being the statistics, and then two, the eye test. And what you have to do is put those two things together then. And see, when it comes down to it, I think the eye test is most important, especially in football. Yeah, it comes down to eye test in football. But, so what statistics should be is statistics should be a foundation for your eye test. It should be or not a foundation for your eye test, sorry. A foundation for then your opinion so let's say another baseball example because it's easy. So we have, let's say, Nolan Arenado's statistics. He's hit this many home runs the past 5 years. That's your foundational basis. Then from there you go, okay, well now as I gather the other information, he plays at Coors Field. Okay, so that's so when I'm comparing him to another player, that's how I use their statistical foundation, and then I add, okay, other things built on that foundation. There's this influence, and he has this hitter hitting behind him, so he sees more pitches because of this, or whatever. So my problem, I know it sounds like I'm going far away. My problem with QBR and some statistics in general is it doesn't give you that solid foundation because you don't even know exactly what it's telling you. With QBR, it's my problem with it is it's supposed to be a comprehensive, here's a one number scale of 1 to 100 statistic. And guys like Skip Bayless use this as gospel of if it's 80 and his is 75, he is clearly 5% better than this. So sorry to take the shot at him, but that's
You don't have to apologize taking a shot at Skip Bayless. That is always allowed in this podcast.
Oh man. But I totally lost my train of thought. So
Skip Bayless has that effect on people, dude. You say the name Skip Bayless and everything goes haywire. I tell you. It's a fact.
Oh man. But so what I'm saying is if you don't even know exactly what it's telling you, then what kind of foundation is it's supposed to be, this is a comprehensive stat of how well a player did. Well, the thing I want out of the statistic is as my base level information, something I know what it's telling me. Because the way you get a full comprehensive understanding, in my opinion, the way you get an understanding, especially in football, of how a player did, is you look at his stats. How many yards did he throw? How many attempts and how many completions and touchdowns? But you can't really know unless you watch the game, and of how well a player, maybe different circumstance, he had these amazing throws or came up big in this situation. So that's kind of the basis for that. With a couple other things with QBR is if we're trying to give a full comprehension, it misses things pre-snap. So if you're trying to really determine how well a QB quarterback did, you think about all the pre-snap adjustments and, it also only takes into account the plays it did make. So it doesn't account for all the things that didn't happen, which I know that sounds funny, but think if you have a wide open throw, over here, or just different scenarios like that, where if you don't do certain things, it doesn't take those into account. So it's really hard I could go into it more, but just to kind of summarize, it's hard to have a statistic that tries to wrap up everything what a player is and how much a player adds, when it's so much based on and just people's opinions. There's literally analysts saying he should have done this for every play. He should have done this, and this much happened. So it's all based on opinion, and opinion should come after the statistics, not be built into the statistics. So that's kind of my little rant on QBR. Got a little off topic, but that's it can be helpful,
test, man.
It can be helpful, but like you said, it comes down to eye test. And I've had games where I have a certain eye test with one player, and the QBRs are way off, and it's because it's weighted so heavily in certain times, and it can be helpful, but you have to take it for what it's worth. And for me, it's not worth a whole lot. So
yeah, the eye test is huge for me. I'm a big sports guy. I mean, we're about to talk about something next that was all eye test for me, really. But I mean, we'll see. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm excited for this next one. We're going into high five, right? Coming up now. All right, guys. We're here with high five. And we're coming at you with our top five again. This is our first really potentially controversial top five. We'll see as we get into it. We're coming with our top five MLB players of all time.
All time, baby.
MLB is such an old sport. It's been going for well over 100 years.
Yep.
And so there's a lot of great players. I'm really curious. This has become my favorite segment, I think. I mean, only two episodes. But
that might be a hot take in and of itself. There's a lot of good ones. But
oh, man. Yeah, well, let's get started with number five. AJ, hit us with your number five MLB player of all time.
You're already going to hate me for this. This is so funny. So we're
I have strong
we were just talking about this like before we started recording. He's already ready. We were talking about this before we started recording. Like, it's hard to come up with the five names, but once you do, like, it's easy to kind of like, okay, he goes here, he goes here, he goes here.
Oh boy!
Number five
for your first one.
The number five player of all time is Derek Jeter. Derek Jeter is the number five player of all time. He is the number five player of all time. He is one of the greatest shortstops, most clutch hitters of all time.
Oh boy!
Stayed with the same team. I love that. I can't even get.
Oh, what about Derek Jeter?
For those of you guys who are listening instead of watching, Caleb threw his chair back and stood up. Derek Jeter stayed with the same team his entire career. One of the most clutch hitters of all time, one of the most consistent hitters of all time. I mentioned that a lot of his eye appeal, so I don't have a lot of stats really to give you, other than the fact that Derek Jeter.
Yeah, you don't have a lot of stats because
we can go into the stats. Derek Jeter.
He's not top 30.
Oh, this is the first time we have like vehemently disagreed. Didn't say that word right, but Derek Jeter, like I said, stayed with the same team. Great hitter, won some World Series with the Yankees. Great infielder, one of the best infielders of all time, I would say. He's up there for me. Derek Jeter is number five.
Oh wow! Okay, are you done? Oh,
did you? Let me be honest. Did you think I was going to say that?
Oh no! I thought you were. Oh my goodness! No, I did not think that was coming. Woo! I was like, I didn't know I'd have to scroll that far down my list. Oh goodness!
Oh, what do you got? What do you got, Waymeyer?
Okay, no, we'll talk about Derek Jeter. and I don't want to hate on him too much.
But I'm going to.
He is good. He's a great player. He's and the best thing for him is he's one of the best shortstops of all time. He is not in the top 10. He's not in the top 20. No. Oh my god, I can't even focus now. I can't imagine what your next four are gonna be. Well,
my next four will be pretty good, I think. We'll see.
Okay, so my number 5, and this maybe is surprising that of all time, maybe it's surprising this isn't higher, because originally I had him higher, but my number 5 is Willie Mays.
Okay.
Willie Mays is a San Francisco Giant, so naturally I'm not a huge fan. But he was a great all-around player. He had 660 home runs, which puts him at third, I guess. I leave out the steroids guys in those, behind Aaron and Ruth. Batted over 300, two MVPs, 12 Gold Gloves. So he stole bases. He played great defense. He was just a great all-around hitter. I think of him kind of like a Mike Trout from years ago. So Willie Mays, long time. He stayed with the Giants his whole career, I believe, right?
I think so.
The famous catch over the shoulder. Yeah, he's a great player. Played a lot of seasons. I think he went to 24 All-Star games, which is crazy if you think about that. 24. Yeah. Anyways, so yeah, Willie Mays is my number 5.
I don't got a problem with that. Not as much as you have a problem with
Derek Jeter. And I appreciate things about Derek Jeter, his hustle, the great plays he has, but yeah, we'll get into it.
Player for the dramatic. I mean, you never know. But we'll see.
November.
Number four, and this one I really love because I wanted to put him higher, but obviously it wouldn't really pan out with his position. Because I was thinking a pitcher, who would be one of the best pitchers of all time, and therefore one of the best players of all time. And I'll admit some of this is a homer pick. I was thinking about it, but at the same time, his statistics don't, or I guess the way he played the game doesn't lie. The way he played the game. Number 4 for me is Bob Gibson.
All right.
Bob Gibson, he's one of the best pitchers of all time. One of the only pitchers, I think, if not the only pitcher to ever pitch a no-hitter in the World Series. He led the Cardinals to a World Series victory that year, I forget what year it was. But, I mean, you hear story after story after story of people who did not want to face Bob Gibson. We think about nowadays about a Jordan Hicks and a Julius Chapman or people who have filthy stuff, like curveballs and things like that. Bob Gibson was that guy back in the day in a time period when that wasn't even a thing. So he was he was the GOAT at that time, so to speak, of pitchers. You didn't want to face this guy. And then when it came to the World Series, we think of people like Clayton Kershaw, which we love to talk about, who fade off in the playoffs. Bob Gibson didn't. I mean, he and I wish I had more statistics, but just thinking about that World Series game where he threw a no-hitter, that's leveling up in a game where you need it to happen. I believe his catcher is actually color commentary for the Cardinals now. I'm trying to remember his name, but
I didn't know that.
Tim McCarver, that's who it is. Yeah, he was the catcher for Bob Gibson, and so he tells stories about Bob Gibson all the time. I mean, he's a Cardinals pitcher, so obviously I love him. But he's one of the best pitchers of all time, in my opinion, too. And there were a lot up there. A lot of Pedro Martinez, Kurt Schilling with his Bloodstock game, even pitchers of recent. I know you hate this and I hate this, but Madison Bumgarner. I hate to even say that name.
Postseason, postseason, but yeah.
Yeah, postseason, but it has to be well-rounded. So Bob Gibson's number 4 for me. So obviously,
in that era, I would also think Sandy Koufax. I kind of put him there with Bob Gibson. Yeah. But yeah, he especially that 1968 year. I just pulled it up. He had a 1.12 ERA.
Yeah,
that's nuts.
It's nuts.
22 games, and they actually prompted rule changes in the MLB. He was so good, they're okay, we have to change some things. They lowered the mound and stuff. Yeah. So I'm not mad at that. That's fine. My number 4 guy. I'm going to today. And I don't know, maybe the reason he's number 4, well, okay, I'll just give you the name. Mike Trout, number 4.
What?
Is that high or low?
That's low, bro.
Okay, I was wondering. So this is why he's not higher. It's because he's only 28.
In your top 3. Oh my gosh.
It's because he's only 28. You think of a guy like he's well. I'm just gonna read some stats. He already has 3 MVPs. You know, in 8 seasons, he was in the top 2 in MVP voting every year except for 1 when he was 4th. That's ridiculous. Even his rookie season, he was number 2 in MVP voting. Like, he won Rookie of the Year by a landslide. He's crazy. He's getting better and better. If you know WAR, the statistic wins above replacement, which is it's one of those kind of opinion stats, but I think it's more solid in baseball, but we can talk about that later. He's already passed over 100. It talks about your collective value. Already passed over 100 Hall of Famers in career WAR, and it's cumulative. And at only 28, he's like already on pace to get up there. He's already passed Derek Jeter in WAR. So no, but so
wow. I mean, I'm glad he's in the top 5, but gosh.
Well, the thing is, it's just because he's only 28 yet. Only 28. You know, by the end of his career, I do think he will be like 1 or 2 type thing. But the reason I can put him above these guys is just because he's young. You look at Albert Pujols, who was insane, you know, through like his 28-year season and then kind of dropped off. If that same thing happened, I don't know if I'd be able to put him. I don't anticipate that.
But don't you dare say it's what happened to Mike Trout, though. Those are some dangerous words right there. But
I think, I don't know. Yeah, what do you got for number 3, AJ?
This is one of my favorite ones. I have to keep my voice down because we're recording late and my host family is already going to bed. So I'm gonna try to like keep myself like contained with these last 3.
But oh no, AJ, don't. Oh no.
Number 3 is actually one of my favorites. I mean, obviously top 2 are like they're better than him, but number 3 is one of my favorites because he's one of my favorite players of all time. Not that I believe he's one of the best players of all time. He's one of my favorite players of all time. Number 3 is Ken Griffey Jr. Ken Griffey Jr., how do I describe this dude? He has one of the best swings in baseball history. In baseball history. And, Caleb, he also has one of the weirdest stances in baseball history. But this man hit, what is he? Is he top 5? Check me on this. Is he top 5, top 10 in home runs all time? I mean,
yeah, he's top 5.
Yeah, he's up there in home runs. His fielding. Have you seen highlights of this dude, like tracking down like fly balls, the amount of home runs he robbed? He played with his dad at one point. He played on different teams. Like, he went through different stints. But the home run derby, like the home run derby back in the day when Ken Griffey Jr. played was must-see TV. Think about like the NBA Finals or like the last episode of a TV show where like you want to see the big finale. Like, that was Ken Griffey Jr. in the home run derby. Like, you had to watch this guy. You can say that about other people to an extent where it's like, you know, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. or like Pete Alonso or like, oh gosh, like I'm thinking of like I'm forgetting all the big names. Like Nelson Cruz, like those guys, you think about like all these home run hitters. Ken Griffey Jr. was that guy. Yeah, Giancarlo Stanton. He was that guy every single night. Like, he was, to use Stephen A's term, he was box office. Like, meaning like he was must see. Like, you would pay. And here's the funny thing: he played for the Mariners, he played for the Reds, and I believe he played for the Mariners again at one point. Like, he didn't even play for that great of teams. I don't even think he won a World Series. And he was one of the greatest outfielders and one of the greatest hitters of all time. When he would hit a home run, he wouldn't just like hit it just barely over the fence. Like, that ball would be gone. Like, no chance. Mm-hmm. No chance for anybody to even catch it. So,
well, he kind of made baseball cool in a certain way. You know, he kind of brought the swag to baseball.
Like, I don't think backwards hats would even be a thing in sports culture if it wasn't for Ken Griffey Jr.
Yeah.
The kid, he's number 3.
Yeah, you know, that's good. If he didn't miss some of those seasons with Cincinnati, he could have hit 700 homers. You know, mm-hmm. He had kind of some half seasons there.
Yeah,
third season.
And they were a dangerous team back in the day too. They had put some more pieces together, the Reds. I mean, you had Adam Dunn on that team as well. I think they had a pretty good pitching staff as well. So it was like they were pretty good.
Yeah. All right. My number 3 is my only pitcher on this list.
Okay.
And so this is my greatest pitcher of all time. Greatest pitcher in baseball history is number 3, going way back to Walter Johnson.
Who?
Walter Johnson.
Who? Caleb, I have no idea who that is.
Are you serious?
I have no idea who Walter Johnson is. I'm gonna be brutally honest.
Well, I'll give you some. I'll give you some info. He played at the same time.
Just listed somebody. I have no idea who it is.
I know. That's brutal. That's tough. This guy played from around like 1915 to 1930 something. So kind of in that range. Yeah. This is kind of awkward now that my greatest pitcher of all time. His career. So he's second all time in wins. You know who Cy Young is?
Really? Yeah, I know Cy Young.
I'm kidding. I'm joking. So he had 417 wins, a 2.17 career ERA. He has the record with 110 career complete game shutouts, which is insane. Yeah, I know. You think about now. Again, it's the times. Years ago they'd pitch complete games all the time. But like Kershaw now, he has 15 complete game shutouts in 12 seasons compared to 110. So I know it's just ridiculous. A statistic that will never be broken. But he led the league in strikeouts 12 times. He's actually So his 1913 season, he went just these ridiculous stats. He went 36-7 with a 1.14 ERA, a 0.78 WHIP, if you know what that is, and then he had 11 complete game shutouts. So he's just very dominant. They even say he was a nice guy. He was really the first fireball pitcher in terms of guys that just threw gas. Again, it's so old they don't know exactly how hard he threw, but they also say he was a nice guy where he didn't like to pitch hitters inside as opposed to guys like Bob Gibson who would. So I can only imagine what would have happened if
I didn't even know that was a thing.
if he was more intimidating. But yeah, he played in the area of like Babe Ruth and kind of the turn of baseball a little bit. So he was one of the greats. So that's my number 3 and greatest pitcher of all time.
More you know.
Played for the Washington Senators, who were terrible.
More you know. There you go. The Senators are a hockey team now, by the way, for those of you guys who are wondering how old that is.
Yeah, they were so bad at baseball, they just told them to go play hockey.
Okay. Okay, we are now to the top 2, which is always fun. It's already been controversial already. We should peep that. That's got to be the trailer for the sneak peek.
I can't get over Derek Jeter. I don't know.
That was funny.
Bob Gibson and Ken Griffey. Oh, well. Yeah, never mind.
Yeah.
I was going to say they're both better than Derek Jeter, but then I realized you had a higher on your list.
Come on now. Give me credit where credit's due. All right, number 2. Number 2. And this is more off the field and on the field. But, I mean, he was just as good of a player on the field.
Huh?
Number 2 is Jackie Robinson.
Yeah, I thought about him.
Jackie Robinson, he has to be in this top 5 list. He has to be. Because if Jackie Robinson doesn't play baseball, Caleb, we don't see the MLB, we don't see sports as they are today. I mean, think about what's going on in our world. And as Caleb and I mentioned in episode 1, if you guys didn't hear, we do want to talk about all the racial tension that's going on in our world at some point. And so we're going to be kind of praying through that and walking through that about what that looks like and what conversation to have and how to have it and how to have it biblically. But Jackie Robinson, back in a time where racial tensions were much more serious, stepped onto a baseball field and balled out. Like, he didn't just step into a baseball field and was like, all right, here I am playing baseball. He balled out. Like, he went to town on all of these dudes. Like, he was – I mean, the highlights of them are obviously in black and white, so it's hard to kind of see. But he would steal bases. He was a great infielder, great hitter. The movie 42, if you guys haven't seen that, great movie about Jackie Robinson. He endured so much, and it didn't faze him at all. No, it did not faze him. Like, he was one of the best people on that baseball field. So, I mean, he was a great player, even on top of like the cultural barriers he was breaking. But I mean, he has to be on that list simply for that fact that he was the first Black athlete to play a professional sport. That's crazy. And now we thank him for it. We thank God for it because we can watch sports in a way that is so much more enjoyable, so much better because we see all the different ethnicities, all the different cultures, things that are like worldwide sports now. Wouldn't even be a thing without Jackie Robinson. He has to be on this list, and he's number 2.
Dude, that's great. That's great. He's not on my list, but I did think about it for a little while. I kind of kept it to strictly just straight up on the field. But he really is one of the GOATs. I respect that. We owe him so much.
Yeah.
Think about the things. That was a great point. Like all the things he went through. You know, he would be one of the greats if he batted. You know, it was okay. But he was actually he balled out, like you said.
Yeah.
You know, he stole home like 20 times and was a great defender and great hitter. Yeah, man, huge respect to him. And really, yeah, like you said, sports are totally different because of that, all the things he went through.
Yeah.
So, yeah, definitely. That's great. Yeah, my number two hit baseball player of all time, Ted Williams. And so Ted Williams.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm really curious who number 1 is now. This is like you're going way old school.
Yeah, you know, I was realizing as we're doing this, mine are more older and yours are a little newer. That's okay. You know, it's kind of different.
Mine's kind of a blend of both, but yeah, yours are more older.
Yeah, yours is both. Yeah, right. But yeah, he batted .344 career, which is nuts. You know, he led the league 6 times in batting average. He's
for
the
those
highest.
Of you guys real quick, for those who are non-sports people watching this, we keep saying batting average and like .344 and like whatever these numbers. It's basically like a percentage of how much you hit the ball. So like .344, it means Ted Williams hit the ball 34.4% of the time, which is crazy considering how tough it is. Yeah, and got a base hit.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you're not into sports and listening to this, that's crazy.
It is crazy.
Hope you enjoy like my statistic thing where I'm just speaking ridiculousness. Oh my goodness. Okay, so on base percentage, here you go. If we talked about this last episode, if you caught that a little bit, he's the all-time leader in on-base percentage, .482. Basically, 50% of the time he got on base, which is just nuts. Hit 521 homers, but this is where I think he's really one of the greatest hitters of all time. Is with that batting average and with that leading the league in terms of all time getting on base. He also missed a lot of time right in his prime for wars going on, like World War II and even some other things a little bit. But so he really got a substantially less amount of at-bats than guys like Willie Mays, for example. So Williams has 521 homers. Willie Mays has 660. If he had the same amount of at-bats, his home run per at-bat, if he had the same, I calculated out, if he had the same amount of at-bats as Willie Mays, he would have ended up with 736 homers at his rate, which is good for second all-time behind Hank Aaron. So just think he's a really great hitter. 1.116 OPS, if you like that stat. I know some people do, and which is insane. If you don't know, then you know. But he's one of the greatest hitters of all time. He was the last hitter to hit 400, and he was one of the greatest hitters, if not maybe the greatest hitter ever to.
That's a good point. I didn't think about like the actual greatest hitters. Ted Williams is one of, if not the greatest hitter of all time. I mean, think about consistency. The consistency of like getting on base, like where you can trust somebody to get a base hit. Like that's
482 on base percentage career is just ridiculous. Like
that's like half the time.
382. Yeah, like the highest on base percentage for one season in all of baseball in the past 10 years wasn't even 482. Like in 10 years, no one hit 482 once. That was his career. So, just nuts. So anyways,
that is crazy.
He's my number 2.
Absolutely insane, but not as insane as number 1 because Caleb, this is the first time we did it last week with things we miss about sports, but that's not as like giving a crown to somebody and saying you are the greatest baseball player of all time. And Caleb, I am buying into the hype. I am buying into the hype because the greatest baseball player of all time is someone who's still playing right now, and it is Mike Trout. 100%, without a doubt. You can't. I agree that like you put him at number 4, and like the people you put above him, like okay, like, I don't know who Walter Johnson is, but like I get like I understand like you put in Ted Williams up there and stuff because Mike Trout's still playing. I don't care. I mean, you watch this guy play the game of baseball, it's over. It's over. Like you watch him play one game. He plays for the Los Angeles Angels, by the way, who are terrible.
And it's a tragedy that they do not go to the playoffs because
oh
we
my
are
God,
missing.
like Mike Trout needs to be in the playoffs. They went to the playoffs one time and got swept by the Royals. Swept. Mike Trout should not get swept. I don't know if he needs to get traded. Maybe he needs to be on another team. I think he needs to be like a franchise player for the Angels and build around him more. But I don't even know. I don't have to say anything else, I don't think. Mike Trout, if you don't understand, go watch highlights of Mike Trout. Best outfielder I've ever seen. Best hitter I've ever seen. The way this guy goes down and hits like pitches out of the strike zone. Like his home runs, he hits out of the strike zone where it's like a diving curveball, and he just and it's gone.
His stroke is so short. He just
it's just gone. It's gone. So he's still playing. I don't care. He is the greatest baseball player of all time. Better than all those guys. Someone's gonna have to come after him and be better than him because no one before him has done it, and I don't think anyone after him will do it. You mentioned his WAR, which is a stat that is like how important you are to your team. He's most important not only to his team in baseball, but you can make an argument like in all of sports. Like he is that important to the Angels. Like their record does not reflect that, but like he is that important to a baseball team. Without him, your team will suffer.
Yep. And that's why his contract's over $400 million.
His contract is insane. We talked about money and greed at the beginning of this. Mike Trout deserved every single penny of his contract. He deserved every single penny of that. So I don't think there's any argument for that. I mean, you made an argument for him putting him at number 4. I don't mind.
I totally agree in the sense, and this is where I agree is this is just something we can talk about down the road sometime with sports, but sports that I don't think anyone can disagree that level of sports is getting higher. In the sense that, like, if you look, guys are throwing out harder than ever now. You know, they're just nastier pitches than ever. It's harder to do things well. And this guy is just killing it. Like, he's putting up insane numbers. He's ridiculously consistent. Like you said, he does it all. He steals bases, plays outfield, hits for, he's just consistent. And this is one of the rare times. And think about this. This is why he's so good to me, especially now, today's sport. He's one of the few players that is unanimously the best player in the sport. Like today is what I mean. So like you ask anyone who's the best player right now, Mike Trout. Like that's kind of unanimous in MLB. Would you agree? Sort of?
In MLB, yeah. 100%. Yeah.
Right. So
I think when you think about all sports too, like there's an argument to be made for that. And the NFL, like we're gonna talk about that in a couple of weeks. I might put a certain quarterback in that conversation, even though he's only been in the league for 3 years. But hey, you never know. We'll see.
Yeah. Anyways,
South Chiefs, man.
I'm surprised this guy wasn't in your list. And we'll talk about this because my number 1 should be pretty obvious.
Wow. Okay.
And it's maybe the most recognizable name in all of baseball.
Okay.
Of all time, and that is Babe Ruth.
Babe Ruth.
Babe Ruth is my number 1 player of all time.
Interesting. Okay.
So, yeah, let's talk a little bit. He was his numbers are insane because he revolutionized the game. I would even, he dominated his sport even more than a guy like Michael Jordan dominated basketball, I'd say. Where he absolutely changed the game. AJ just gets up and leaves. Is that a hot take?
You seriously just say that?
Babe Ruth dominated baseball more than Michael Jordan dominated basketball.
Oh my gosh.
100%. You need some numbers, AJ?
He's out of his mind. He's out of his mind.
Oh man. We got some interesting things coming.
Why would you put those words in your mouth? Why would you bring Michael Jordan? Michael Jordan didn't do anything to you. Why would you do that?
No, I'm giving you an example of like Michael Jordan's one of those guys. This is respect to Michael Jordan, who you talk about guys who dominated their sport. It's like Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, Muhammad Ali.
Hold on. We're running out of time on our Zoom call. This is how intense this is getting. I literally just got a notification that said the meeting will end in 10 minutes.
I'll wrap this up. Go ahead.
Are you saying, guys, you guys need to hear this. If you guys have not tuned into any of the podcasts, first of all, why? Second of all, listen to this. Caleb, do you think that Michael Jordan, I don't even know how to phrase this question. Do you think that Michael Jordan is the greatest athlete of all time?
This is for another time, bro.
Oh my gosh, he's avoiding the question. Oh my god. Oh my word. Do you think that Michael Jordan is the greatest athlete of all time?
We'll talk about it later.
Guys, listen, please help this man.
You can't argue that Babe Ruth.
No, I won't argue it.
I think it's completely true.
He dominated his sport more than Michael Jordan? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. I can give you the numbers, bro. You ready for these numbers? Hey,
I don't care about your numbers. I don't care.
Oh my goodness.
Give your numbers. Go ahead.
Okay. So I don't even know where to begin. He was the let me pull this up real quick. His first year was 1914. He played from 1914 to 1935 for the Red Sox and the Yankees. All right. So he came in actually as a pitcher. And if you don't know, as a pitcher, he has a career 2.28 ERA, which is insane. In 1916, he had 9 complete game shutouts, 1.75 ERA. He was very dominant. He's top 5 in pitchers all time. Over 31 career postseason innings, he has a 0.87 ERA, which is actually sixth all time with at least 20 innings. He had a 29-inning World Series scoreless streak. So he was a clutch pitcher. He pitched like 30 straight scoreless innings in the World Series. Great pitcher. He actually struck out 170 batters without allowing a home run in that span. So just some ridiculous numbers. He pitched a shutout and had a multi-homer game in the World Series. So came in as a great pitcher. One of the more dominant pitchers ever to play our game. And then they realized this guy's so good at hitting, we can't have him pitch anymore. And he went to the Yankees and started hitting, and he blew everyone out of the water. So in 1919, he had more home runs than 10 different teams altogether. So with 29 home runs in that era, he just blew it open. He led the league in home runs 12 times. He hit 54 the next year after leading the league with 29. And he led in every statistical category for his entire career. Except batting average 6 times, but slugging percentage, OPS, on base percentage, home runs, he led like 10 times all of those. So he's the greatest. His home run rate and the fact that he hit home runs at such a high rate while playing like in that more heavy pitching era, he just changed the game completely. If you look at Hank Aaron, the only guy who has more home runs than him, if you put his home run rate on Hank Aaron's amount of at-bats, because he had a very few amount of at-bats, less than Williams, Mays, and Aaron, all those guys up there with him. If you gave him the same amount of at-bats as the only guy higher than him, he would have had over 1,000 home runs with his home run rate. 1 per every 11 at-bats, which is easily the best. Highest in WAR, all-time WAR by a landslide. He was one of the greatest pitchers and the greatest hitter of all time. With Ted Williams, I don't know. Revolutionized the game. There's so many more stats I could give because he just blew his league open. But yeah, so he is the all-time home run rate leader, and all the batting numbers, slugging percentage, and on-base percentage, he rocked them all. Led in home runs every year. Babe Ruth, he changed the game, and he's the greatest baseball player of all time. How you feeling, AJ?
I don't disagree with you. I'm just trying to get over the words that came out of your mouth. I don't know if I can get past that.
Oh man, we're gonna have some interesting conversations down the road.
Woo.
All right, guys. Sorry we had to cut that off kind of abruptly with our technology recording things going on. But yeah, wow, that got a little interesting. I'm still trying to recover from the Derek Jeter, and then all of a sudden now AJ's trying to recover from this. We'll have to get more into this later. We ran a long time, but I'm confident in what I have to say, and I'm confident we've got some big hot takes coming up.
We do, and we have some big special guests coming up too.
Oh
yeah, we want to thank you guys for tuning in again. This is a longer episode, but we hope that you guys enjoyed it. It's a pleasure to be able to put these out for you guys. We got more coming every Friday. So as you're watching this right now, we'll put this out at 10 a.m. Eastern time. So as you're watching this, leave a like, comment, subscribe, do all those different things. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Anchor. We're covering all the platforms now. We're excited. We got a special guest coming on soon. I'm not even going to say their names because I want to leave it to you guys for you guys to find out. Caleb knows who it is. I know who it is. The special guest knows who he is. I guess I gave away the gender, but whatever. But we're looking forward to it. So thank you guys so much for watching. Again, make sure to leave a like and a comment. Leave a review as well on Apple Podcasts. The more reviews we get in terms of like 4-star reviews or 5-star reviews, the more reviews we get, the more publicity. Yeah, 5-star reviews mainly. Yeah. The more
said 4-star reviews.
The more reviews we get, the better. To kind of put the publicity out, because this is a Christ-centered sports podcast, and we're trying to preach the gospel through this as well. So that's all for episode 2. So I am Caldwell.
I'm Caleb.
And we will talk to you guys next week. God bless.
Thanks for tuning in.